Hi and welcome to The Peaks Life, little bite-sized chunks of wellness wisdom to power you through your day. I'm Mike Warren, this is Lynn Fernie. Now, we love a good experiment. In fact, we do the experimenting so you don't have to. We put our bodies under extreme pressure so that you can say, look, I don't need to try it because those two idiots at The Peaks Life have tried it for us. So today we're going to talk about the Ketovore.
We are.
Great Ketovore Experiment.
The Ketovore Experiment, that's the one.
Tell us how it started, tell us a little bit about the background, and then we'll walk the guys through what actually happened and why we now have a new word, Ketovore, and we're going to use that lots, what it means and how it impacts and all those sort of good things.
So I guess, we're looking at what is the optimum nutrition, way of eating, lifestyle. And, we all know that we're unique. Every single one of us has got a different size, weight, gender, different backgrounds, stressors, different lifestyle, different work. And you've heard me say it many, many times. I say almost every episode, line you and your 5 friends up on the starting line of a 100-meter race. You'll all look different and you'll run differently.
Absolutely. We are different, so we have to have different eating plans and patterns
that
suit our individual bodies.
Exactly. So we all need to individualise our eating. And sometimes we get on a path where we're eating in a certain way and, we perhaps aren't 100% satisfied with the results. Things feel pretty good. And often, especially when you're on keto, things feel pretty damn good. But you just have a feeling you could optimise it a bit more.
Yes.
And what we know is that there's a lot of discussion around at the moment about keto versus carnivore. And so what we decided to do was to test out the different ends of the spectrum and say, well, okay, what happens if we eat, a ketogenic diet versus a carnivore diet, or a whole spectrum, of eating styles in between, and find out what is going to be optimum for us. Now, this might not be optimum for anybody who's tuning in.
No, absolutely.
But it's an interesting experiment, and what it does reveal, and if you go to the literature, you have a look on Google, you research, different forms of keto and carnivore will suit different people at different times in their life, and they'll bring lots of different benefits. So rather than putting the blinkers on, and because all the literature says, keto's great, or your friend's doing keto, or somebody's doing the carnivore 75 hard challenge, putting the blinkers on and saying, I'm going to do that, listen up, because we've got some tips and tricks around the different styles of eating to help you select what's going to be best for you.
Yeah, and I think one thing we did notice, and one thing it's very evident there's a huge interest upsurge in carnivore, and there's a lot of chat and there's a lot of people who are very, very opinionated around whether carnivore is good, bad or ugly. So there is a real sort of a fight between keto carnivore, and a lot of people are transitioning from keto to carnivore. There's a lot of people who've had some really great personal successes, and therefore they believe everyone should, but not everyone does. So it's really important to step back and look at any new eating type or any new eating plan and make sure it suits you, and go through the process and test it to see whether it is right for the individual. And that's what we've done.
We have done exactly that. We've laid our bodies on the line.
I've slept with a piece of steak for 14 days and it was terrible.
The steak or the sleep?
Both, actually. We both smelled. All right, so maybe take a step back and just walk through the different aspects of carnivore, keto, paleo, ketogenic, all the different things, just so that we've got a baseline, and then we'll look at what is keto, what is carnivore, and then what is ketovore, what does that mean, and how does it work?
So I guess, especially if you're new to all of this, these would all pretty much be called ancestral type of diets or ways of eating.
Yes.
And the reason we call them ancestral is they mimic what our ancestors would have had, maybe 100,000 years ago.
When I was a caveman.
When you were a caveman, that's right. So when you were holding up your club and
I still do that.
And you went running after the animals to try and catch your meal. And that's essentially what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get back to how humans were meant to eat, how we evolved, and we're trying to remove the things from our diet that don't really serve us, that are modern inventions, that perhaps are damaging for the body. Now, I'm going to put a little caveat in here. You can go out and research any type of diet and you can find good things about it and you can find bad things about it.
Don't we know it? Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has scientific research to support their opinion.
Exactly right. So you will find that, and so it can be super confusing. You'll find right now, there's the movie out on Netflix called The Game Changers, which advocates a plant-based lifestyle. And anybody who's a die-hard vegan is going to argue their case really vehemently and try and convince you that meat is bad and you shouldn't have meat, and plant-based is the only way to go. You'll find the same in the carnivore world, that you should only eat meat and nothing else. So I want you to just put all of that aside for a second and just purely look at the information that we present here on its face value. Yep, you can go and do the research later, but let's just look at each one of these ways of eating. So let's start off with paleo.
Okay.
So I think paleo was one of the first ancestral diets to become quite popular. Many of these have been around for years and years, hundreds of years actually, but the paleo diet became popular probably 15, 20 years ago. And what it promoted was a whole food diet that was made up of meat, eggs, limited dairy produce, so it didn't advocate the low-fat milks, but you could have the higher fat dairy, some plant-based produce, and carbohydrates that came from whole foods, things like sweet potatoes, so the low glycemic index type of carbohydrates. Like I said, the sweet potatoes, perhaps the corn, that type of thing. So you'd probably have a reasonable balance of fats, carbohydrates, and the proteins. So that diet became quite popular for a fair period of time as people tried to return to more of a whole foods way of eating.
And you were paleonic for a while, weren't you?
I was paleo, and in particular I did paleo for athletes.
Ah, interesting.
So there was a particular version of this diet which became popular through Lauren Cadane, who basically wrote a book, Paleo for Athletes, and he looked at how should athletes adopt the paleo diet and where should they put their carbohydrates to give them performance when they were doing, doing the running or the triathlons or whatever it was they were doing. So basically I would eat some carbohydrates, but I'd cluster them mainly around my, my athletics, and perhaps some in the evening. So they'd be used to fuel my body, so pre-sport, and they'd be used to recover from sport, so that after the sport and in the evening. So I did paleo for a while, and I felt pretty good, but not 100% on paleo.
Okay, so that's paleo, tick that box. What's next?
The next one is keto, and I think ketogenic is the one that is very popular at the moment. It's one of the most researched and Googled diets that we've got today. It's been around since the 1920s when it was used to treat epilepsy, and essentially it's characterized by being a low carbohydrate, so very, very small quantity of carbohydrate, moderate protein and high fat diet. So when you think of ketogenic, what we're trying to do there is we're trying to mimic what we would have taken in, again, as a caveman 100,000 years ago. We're looking for fatty cuts of meat, eating animals nose to tail, so lots of really high quality sources of protein. We're looking for really healthy fats, so again, animal fats, the ghees, the butters, tallows and lard. But we do allow things like the olive oils, some of the plant-based oils, coconut oil. And then we have some plant-based foods, like we eat nuts and seeds, and we would eat things like above ground vegetables.
Absolutely.
So the difference between paleo and keto is that keto doesn't allow the below ground vegetables like the sweet potatoes, the carrots, the turnips and those sort of things.
Okay. And of course we're big fans of keto. We've done this for a long time and coached lots of people. And obviously at Peaks we demonstrate and teach keto. So we're very familiar with keto, and personally we've both got good results from keto. So paleo, keto, both ancestral type diets. And then we've got
the next one, and sorry, I just want to point out the difference between paleo and keto. Paleo, you're still running on glucose as your fuel because you're giving your body carbohydrates.
Of course, through the root veggie.
That's it. When you transition, and many people transition from paleo to keto, the transition removes the glucose. So what you're actually doing is you're starting to run on a different fuel source. You're running on ketones, and you go into ketosis. So that's where the biggest shift occurs, because we are looking for the ketosis, the state of ketosis, where we're eliminating all of those, the glucose or the carbs that
totally
generate glucose. Different fuel source. I think the next thing to mention although we don't advocate them, would be dirty keto, lazy keto.
Yes.
So people see these, people ask a lot of questions around this, and it's because people want to keep their old style of eating. So keto is a clean style of eating. It uses whole foods, just like paleo does. So we're eating the animals, we're eating the meat, we're creating our dishes from scratch. We're not having processed foods, we're not having industrial seed oils, and we're not having the processed things like the gluten, the wheat, all of those grains, so the rice.
Sweetness.
And we're having very limited, on
Yes.
keto, limited artificial
You know
sweeteners.
how I feel about them.
We don't advocate them, but they are allowed. They are in the macros,
They
so
are
as
in the
long as they're
macros.
in the macros. So if we look at the lazy keto, this is where people perhaps, they don't track their macros, they don't know whether they're hitting them or not. They're not really focused on being, quite precise with the diet. So let's say it's a more relaxed style of keto.
Yes.
So, you may eat a bit too much carbs one day, no matter. You may get back into the protein and the fats the next day. You may not have enough fats another day. So you're just a bit more relaxed.
Loosely based on keto.
It's loosely based. You're eating the right sort of things in the right sort of proportions, but you're not necessarily tracking your ketones. You're not really tracking your macros. So.
And what's dirty? What's the difference between lazy and dirty?
And then the difference between lazy and dirty is where we're allowing junk foods, processed foods, any food at all. Doesn't have to be whole food.
As long as it fits.
As long as it fits the macros. So as long as you're sticking to about the 75-80% of fat, 15 to 20% of protein, and less than 5% of carbs, however you get it, that is allowed on the dirty keto.
It's a bit of a challenge to get the macros but still maintain the junky food lifestyle.
So what it means is if you're the sort of person who, you love macros, you enjoy your junk food, you eat takeaways for dinner every night, and that's your only style of eating, you feel you can't afford other ways of eating, you feel you don't want to give up those junk foods.
Yep.
You might do all of your normal eating, but just without the burger buns, for example. So you eat the burger, but leave the bun. You might put things in a lettuce leaf rather than in a bun. You might have, your chicken nuggets, but pick off the outside of them, for example.
Yeah.
So you're still eating in your old style of eating, but you're just changing your macros.
Yep.
The downside is that you're still eating the industrial seed oils,
Yes.
which we know are dreadful. They correlate with heart disease, with cancer, with obesity. They're the shit fats. They're the toxic fats.
Yes.
You're still eating, potentially sources of gluten in your food because you don't know where it's been hidden, and you're still eating processed food, which we know is bad for the body.
So it's still very unhealthy. It may fit in loosely with the keto macro plan. It's an unhealthier type of keto, and it's not what we advocate. And obviously the results would be in line with that, because you're not going to get the same speed of results and the same speed of wellness if it comes to dirty or lazy keto than you would from clean or strict keto.
At the end of the day, you may lose weight.
Yes.
You are doing something good for your body because you're eliminating some of the really bad foods. You're eliminating some of the carbohydrates, and you may get into ketosis. You probably will get into ketosis, but in terms of ultimate health, in terms of disease prevention, in terms of all of those conditions that come from the industrial seed oils, like the cancer and the heart disease, you're not really going to be preventing those. You're simply going to be in ketosis and therefore losing weight. So there are some benefits, but not, you're not going to get the full benefits. You're not going to feel as good as if you're on strict keto.
All right, last one to discuss today before we go into the ketovore, carnivore.
So carnivores,
what's the diet?
Yeah, so carnivore is like a really strict form of keto, or a strict elimination diet. So basically carnivore, simply put, eliminates all plant food.
Right.
So there are no plants, whether they're above ground or below ground. There's no plants, there's no nuts, there's no seeds. Everything comes from an animal source. So carnivore is meat, fish, eggs, a bit of dairy if you tolerate it.
Yep.
And then, not a lot else. So you're not going to have the olive oils, the coconut oils. Like I said, you're not going to have the nuts and seeds.
Yes.
And you're not going to have any of those green leafy vegetables that you would have on keto.
Okay. So looking at the two of them, so if we looked at keto and carnivore, because we're going to bash those two together in a minute into ketovore, what type of person would we recommend keto for, and what type of person would we recommend carnivore for, before we come into this this bashing together and this amalgamation of the two diets.
So if you're looking at your diet right now
Yes.
and you're looking at keto as a possibility, then moving from a carb-based diet
Yes.
in order to improve your health, improve your wellness, prevent diseases like cancer and heart disease, then the keto diet is going to be a great one for you. If you want to balance your energy levels, you're feeling quite fatigued on your old style of eating, then keto does wonders for your energy levels. So, it really does boost your energy, you get up feeling great, helps you sleep, helps your metabolism, controls your blood sugar. So if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, you can actually reverse type 2 diabetes or prevent yourself getting diabetes in the future. We know it's very heart healthy. So there's lots of concerns about cholesterol and the keto diet and the high amount of saturated fat. We now know that saturated fat is not bad for you. It's actually essential for you. All of our hormones, whether you're a man or a woman, hormones get transported on cholesterol around the body.
Yes.
So if you want to balance your hormones, you're getting mood swings. Keto is great for you. If you've been vegetarian or vegan and you're thinking about bringing meat back in, your body is probably starving for some of the basic nutrients and vitamins. Again, keto is great because it's going to give you lots of fat and lots of really good quality proteins. If you just want to maintain your health, then keto is a great way of life. You can maintain your health for the long term. If you want longevity, so a long and healthy life, then again, keto is great for that. And it's also very good if you've got any type of metabolic condition, autoimmune condition, really great for either preventing or treating those.
Interesting. Okay.
Also, wonderful for sleep. So, people find they get much deeper and more restorative sleep when they eat a ketogenic way of eating, or they're on a ketogenic plan. So there are lots and lots of health benefits. And if you want to lose weight, it's not a weight loss diet, but most people who are carrying excess fat find it just sheds when they get onto keto.
And that's why we love it, because it's got so many great benefits. And as you say, it's a great stepping stone from paleo. Maybe the next step is into keto. So that's the group of people who we would say probably best fit keto and probably would consider keto. Who then are we saying are the best fit for carnivore, and who would be more attracted to the carnivore style of eating?
So if you've got a lot of weight to lose,
Yes.
a very significant amount of weight to lose, you can actually lose weight faster on the carnivore diet.
Because it's zero carb.
Because it's zero carbs, you're simply eliminating carbohydrates.
Yes.
So it can be very good for rapid weight loss. If you've got a health condition that hasn't resolved by eating keto, then it may resolve on the carnivore diet. And that's because it's an extreme elimination diet. So you're basically removing pretty much all of the things that cause food intolerances, and therefore you're going to take out anything that might be bothering your body.
Absolutely.
So great if you've got, like I said, a lot of weight to lose, or you've got health challenges that haven't cleared up on keto. If you love meat, so very simply,
Yes.
if you enjoy meat,
Which is one of the things I was attracted to be honest. I do love meat. And so when I thought about carnivore, when we talked about carnivore, it was like, that's very attractive to me. To have large quantities of meat every meal was one of the winners. So I was there for science, of course.
absolutely.
But also there selfishly because I love meat.
Selfishly,
So,
because
and meat
a good
and
T-bone is
simplicity.
great. I think simplicity is a real draw, and we've talked about this in one of our other episodes, that for men, there are, and I don't want to stereotype, there are a lot of men who find this very simple. Just give me beef, salt and water, and that's all I've got to
Good
do.
caveman approach.
And good
I
caveman
kill it,
approach.
I eat it, I don't have to do anything else with it.
That's it. It's super easy.
Yes.
What it does do is it really does avoid the need to snack, and the reason for that is that there's a bit more protein in carnivore.
Yes.
And so you tend not to get hungry as often as you might on other forms of eating.
Interesting.
So if you're somebody who snacks a lot and you want to give up the snacks, you might just find that the carnivore diet helps you do that. So I certainly find when I do carnivore, I don't have any desire for food. In fact, I don't get hungry most of the day. So carnivore's great if you want to give up snacking. It's also really good if you've got cravings. So anybody out there who has food cravings, who has sugar cravings, carb and sugar addictions, disordered eating, perhaps bulimic, does binge eating, eats really healthily for a while and then falls off the wagon and,
Yes.
and scoffs a bunch of carbs, this would be great for you because it absolutely kills your cravings dead.
Interesting.
None of your trigger foods are in there. There's nothing that's easy to eat in big quantities. It's very, very difficult to overeat on fatty meat. You just fill up and you just, your natural body process says enough, stop, don't eat anymore. So you're not tempted with the desserts, the ice creams, the pastries. So it really does kill food cravings very, very quickly.
Excellent.
So, for those conditions, it can be an absolute game changer.
And some people do say it's boring. Some people do say that there's not enough nutrients in the products to give the body the nutrients required. So it does sound, when you talk about the benefits, it does sound like an amazing eating plan, but there is a lot of people who disagree with a meat only or products from meat only diet. So it is swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
There is great debate out there right now, and like I said, if you're dealing, for example, with real gut damage, let's just say you've been a carb eater for 30 years and your intestines are damaged, you won't see it, but you might have IBS, you might have constipation or diarrhea. You've got bloating, your tummy hurts, a lot. And, every time you eat, you get bloated. You might have SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Any of these sort of conditions where you're having any type of gut dysfunction or, dysbiosis, then this is an amazing diet because it removes everything that feeds the bad bacteria in the gut, removes everything that causes intestinal permeability. The gut will heal. Meat is incredibly healing. I don't care what the plant eaters think.
Sorry, vegans.
Sorry, guys. Meat, bone broth, organ meats, they contain lots of nutrients, lots of vitamins, and they really do heal the gut. So if you're suffering from those problems, this really could change your life. So, yes, it is boring. Yes, it's restrictive because it's an elimination diet and there's only 4 or 5 things that you can eat.
But some people love that. Some people love the simplicity of knowing every meal it's a lump of meat and it's maybe some seasoning maybe, and you don't have to think about the veggies or the nuts or the cheese or the other things. Some people love that simplicity that drives them to enjoy food, and they get their kick out of selecting the right type of meat, the fatty meats, searching for those beautiful organ meats, and that's the kick they get out of the diet rather than trying to get the variety of foods.
And it is, and people will say, well, is it more expensive? No, it's not, because what you can do, you're not spending money on the vegetables, and organic vegetables are expensive. You're not spending money on the organic cheeses and nuts. You're not buying all those fancy different oils, the coconut oil, the MCT oil. You're not getting all of those different things, and therefore you're purely spending your money on some beautiful, organic, grass-fed beef, maybe some pastured pork, maybe some beautiful lamb, some nice wild fish. So you can buy the best cuts of meat and you don't actually need as much as you think. And you might find, I certainly find, that it's cheaper to do carnivore even though I'm buying the absolute top quality meats.
Yes. All right.
So it's not what you think. And again, I've got to reinforce this. If you're dealing with gut issues, you'll do anything to get rid of that. And I can honestly say my tummy is the flattest ever when I do carnivore, because I just don't have anything that's going to create gas and bloating in my tummy. So I have this beautiful, nice flat tummy. My bowel movements are really comfortable and easy. So, and it's very digestible food, and I feel full of energy. So I can truly say I do feel my best when I'm on carnivore. However, I honestly can say I get a bit bored.
All right, so let's go where we went, because we did in this through Peak's spirit. We put on our scientist hats and we did carnivore, and we played with carnivore. We love keto, but we thought, no, let's do carnivore. So we certainly went through the carnivore process and we tried carnivore. We had some interesting results, and as you say, the flat tummy, I got some great results as well. So I think we both played with carnivore and got a good understanding of the benefits and the effect of carnivore and how to live the carnivore lifestyle. And we came to a conclusion. We sort of came into the middle point
We did. So before we get into where we got to, just a typical day.
Yes.
So very quickly, a typical day for us in the keto world
Yes.
would be a bulletproof coffee at some point during the morning.
Absolutely.
So, we've got our butter and our MCTs
Yep.
and our coffee, and it's decaf coffee. Lunch might be something like, a really nice piece of salmon, perhaps some cheese, some nuts, maybe some little fathead crackers. So one of the replacement breads,
Yes.
would come in there made with almond meal, mozzarella and eggs.
Yep.
And we'd have some nice spices in there, nicely seasoned. So that might be lunch. Evening meal might be something like a steak, perhaps with some zucchini fritters, maybe some mushrooms. Again, we might have perhaps some blue cheese, a nice blue cheese sauce on the steak, and some nuts on the side, and possibly followed by something like maybe some chia with nuts and coconut oil.
And somewhere in there
to
be
finish
chocolate.
off. And there will be definitely some dark chocolate.
Yes,
I
maybe.
love my dark chocolate. So 100% dark chocolate contains lots of antioxidants. I think it's a wonder food. Have it every day after my, not a lot, have it every day after my lunch with my decaf coffee.
So that'll be a typical keto day.
That is a typical keto.
carnivore day when we're doing carnivore is what? How does it differ?
So a typical carnivore day would go like this, probably fasting right through till late afternoon, because I simply don't get hungry. I don't really do the bulletproof coffee either, because the philosophy of carnivore is not adding fats.
Yeah, we're talking strict carnivore now, aren't we?
We're talking strict carnivore,
Yes.
so we're trying not to add fats. What we're
Yes.
trying to do is just eat the fat in the meat
Yes.
rather than add lots of fats. So in keto, you add lots of fats in.
Yep.
So fasting right throughout the day, perhaps until around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then maybe a nice, big, juicy T-bone steak with all of the fat on it. So that could be something like 300-400 grams, which, by the way, I find really hard to eat in one sitting. But a nice big T-bone steak, all of the fats on it, and basically nothing with it. Maybe a small piece of blue cheese, but
Yes.
only a small piece. There would be no dessert, there'd be no chia seeds, there'd be
Bit
no
of salt.
nuts in there. Definitely lots of salt, highly salted, because you need the extra salt because you're going to lose salt with carnivore. Only water to drink.
Yep.
So I would forego my coffee, I'd forego all the spices. If I'm doing strict carnivore, it is something like, say, steak, maybe a nice piece of brisket, which is a very fatty meat,
Yep.
maybe some oxtail, maybe some liver, some good, organ meats. And you tend to favour beef because it's a ruminant. So we're trying to go for the beef because of the vitamins that it contains and the, what you're getting into in the meat, the vitamin K, the CLA, the conjugated linoleic acid, and all those sort of things. So it is, when we say it's boring, it can be boring because it's basically one meal a day. And for me, it was a
For
beef
you, it's
meal.
1 meal a day. I was having 2 meals a day, but there's certainly the challenge is to how to create dishes with just meat products that are interesting and enjoyable and appetizing. Now, some people love that, just a simple steak, salt only. That's the simplicity, and they love that. But for me, being the cook, being the chef in the kitchen, I like to create something where there's a little bit, maybe a couple of different meats, or something that appealed, or something that looks quite visually, appetizing. So that was quite a challenge as well.
It is, especially because you create some amazing meals, Mike. They're all from Whole Foods, but they look beautiful. They've got varied ingredients. They all taste very different. They might have sauces with them. So I miss things like my garlic.
Yeah,
because I
simple things.
do enjoy garlic. It's a great immune booster. Great for the cardiovascular system. I love it to flavour my food, and I miss that on carnivore. And like I said, I really struggled to force my way through 300-400 grams of meat, and often it would leave me feeling totally stuffed. Even though I felt really good within about 2 hours, I'd feel stuffed at the time, and the next day I'd be full of energy. But yeah, I find it hard work.
All right, so we've talked about keto, we've talked about carnivore. Give us the benefits of ketovore, which is what we believe, and this is just a you and me thing. This is not recommended. This is just where we've settled, having sampled carnivore, having lived keto for a long time. We've come up with the concept of ketovore, which is not a new word, but it's a word we're going to be using. What is the benefit of ketovore, and what does it look like in real practical terms?
Yeah, so take keto, take carnivore, smash them together.
Ketovore.
And you drop a few things out and you've got ketovore. So essentially what we're doing is we are looking at mainly animal products. So we're trying to to prioritise the animal products. So prioritise the meat, the fish, the eggs, We are allowing a small amount of dairy, but only in the form of hard cheese, and preferably from sheep's milk or perhaps even goat's milk.
Okay, why is that?
That's because for yourself particularly, Mike, because you're a little bit lactose intolerant.
Absolutely.
So we're removing that potential food intolerance.
Yes.
We're not doing the dairy because, again, a lot of the dairy is not that high in fat or proteins. It doesn't really fit.
Mm-hmm.
So limited to cheese. We have brought the nuts back in, but in much smaller quantities. So we're still going to have things like almonds and macadamia nuts and Brazil nuts and walnuts and pecans, but a very small quantity per day.
Compared to what we were on keto?
Much less than what we were doing on keto, even though we were within the macros.
Yes.
So we're sort of aiming for a lot less than 5% carbohydrates, and nuts are our major source of carbohydrates.
So limiting those.
So we're limiting those, so we're down at 1-2% carbohydrates. And the other reason we're limiting nuts is because they can be irritating to the gut.
Yes.
And I do still suffer from some gut problems from, old issues. So I prefer to keep those, fairly small quantities in my diet. We're going to bring in a little bit of plant-based oil. So a touch of olive oil, and the reason for that is it's good sometimes to cook with or perhaps to make a nice nut salad.
Yes.
But we're really limiting that, really limiting the coconut oil, because again, I find I feel better without those oils.
Yes.
So very, very small quantities of those, and we're not having vegetables. So we're eliminating all vegetables, so keto includes
fruits and veggies are gone?
Fruit and veggies are gone. All sweeteners are gone, which means we're not going to have any replacement foods like keto alternatives, because we're not going to sweeten anything. Not that we did before,
no, so
but just generally.
No change there. Yep.
So we're not having any sweeteners. We will still allow coffee,
yes,
because coffee, decaf coffee, we really enjoy.
Yes.
And we are going to have our 100% chocolate.
The chocolate stays.
So essentially the only real difference is that we're looking to eliminate the vegetables from keto, eliminate the fruits, the artificial sweeteners, and only have the cheeses and nuts in smaller quantities.
So simplicity,
and more animal
plus variety.
That's right. So we've simplified it. There's less foods in our diet now. So we've got rid of some of the fancier foods. Still have things like spices, so we can flavour our foods. Garlic's still in.
Only a small quantity.
Yeah, so we're putting a little bit of garlic in, and again, that's giving us a touch of carbohydrate.
Gives me a chance to create some things in the kitchen and use some nice. So again, from a creation of food perspective, I've now got more to work with, rather than with carnivore. It was quite restrictive. Still abiding by a lot of the keto philosophy, so that's great. But being able to create great dishes, but not having that restrictiveness of carnivore that was not as easy when you're creating food.
Yeah, exactly right.
So a win-win for me.
It's a win-win, and I think people are probably tuning in and asking the question, well, what macros and why do we do it?
Yes.
And I think if you look at the macros, not a lot of difference. So carnivore might be 70% fat, 30% protein. Keto might be, as I said earlier, maybe around 75% fat, 20% protein and 5% carbs. We're looking at about 75% fat.
Yes.
About probably 23-24% protein.
Yes.
And then just that 1 to 2% of carbohydrate.
A couple of carbs here and there.
Just a little bit from those nuts.
Absolutely.
Touch from the chocolate, and that's really all we're getting. So that's our macros. So very similar to keto macros. And that means that we're still going to be in ketosis.
Absolutely, so we're still ketogenic.
Because on carnivore, you may not be in ketosis.
No, that's not. It's not a driver of the carnivore diet, is it?
It's not the driver. So we enjoy being in ketosis. I enjoy the health benefits especially, and I want to retain those. So those macros are really quite important to me. It basically eliminates the problem foods.
Yes.
So I still do have problems. I struggle with vegetables. Especially if I eat a lot of them.
Yep.
So eliminating those plant-based foods that cause me intolerances is really good for my gut, and limiting the nuts, as I said, really helps my my gut. So it's really good if you do have any of those residual intolerances. It is a bit stricter than keto, which I find is good from the food craving perspective.
Yes.
When I'm doing carnivore, I don't get cravings. And so I find that really helpful as a woman, especially as I go through my monthly cycle, keeps me balanced.
Yes.
There's less temptation because
you're going to be more balanced.
I'll try and be more balanced. I can promise that.
You heard it here first. You're going to be balanced. Crazy times.
There's less temptation
Yes.
because you don't have foods around that you're likely to overeat.
True.
You're having less nuts, so you're unlikely to overeat on nuts because you're only allowing yourself a small quantity. So you get used to, the smaller quantities. And as I said, it's hard to overeat protein.
So I guess the takeaway for those people tuning in is it's okay to try a new way of eating. As you said at the very outset, the 5 people lined up on the starting line running the race, everyone is different. People have different needs, but it's good, like we have done, is to sample what is carnivore. We went to strict carnivore, we've come back. We love keto, we love some of the aspects of carnivore, and we've said what we're calling ketovore, but everyone's got their own perfect diet that works for their body, their lifestyle, their budget, their family, and it's about finding the right one that fits exactly into that needs to be giving them the results and the feeling and the wellness, but also long-term and sustainable, which is one of the keys as well.
It's exactly right. There's no right or wrong way. There's only your way. Keep testing. It's a journey for life. This is a long game. This is a way of eating to keep you healthy and happy for the rest of your life. Your needs will change as you go through the years. So don't be afraid to change it up or down as your life changes, and just find the way of eating that fits for you at that time. Be confident. Have self-confidence. If it feels good, if you feel good, if you look good, then keep doing it. If it doesn't feel good, then look for what's not working for you, get rid of that and bring in something different.
Absolutely. So exciting times ahead for a lot of people. Mail us or send us your comments, because we would love to know people who've tried the ketovore, carnivore, ketos thing and have questions, because we're really interested in what other people are doing as well. And we will see everyone again next time on The Peaks Life for little bite-sized chunks of wellness wisdom. See you very soon.
See you next time.